This video is sponsored by Surfshark, the best VPN on the market. Surfshark is an app or browser extension that allows you to change your location to access websites in other countries and keep you safe from hackers. For example, we here in Ireland can access other countries' Netflix libraries, streaming services such as DAZN in Spain for those all-important Premier League games. Surfshark keeps you safe and private by protecting everything you do online. When your device connects to the internet, all that information is, in a way, blurred out. Surfshark is particularly useful for keeping you safe if you use public Wi-Fi, such as a college or a cafe. Surfshark allows you to use one subscription on unlimited devices, meaning that you can even share an account with friends and family. On top of this, Surfshark offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so if you don't like it, you can even get your money back. Our sign-up offer gives you Surfshark VPN for just over €2 per month and up to 4 months free. Why not scan the QR code on screen or use the link in the description to take advantage of this offer. What is up, my friends? How are we? It is the eve of the Reds Champions League match against Galatasaray, and of course tonight we're going to discuss that. We're also going to talk about the Anfield Index exclusive, which is that Sebastian Hoeness has been in conversations with the Liverpool hierarchy. We'll tell you a little bit more about that. We'll talk about Xabi Alonso, of course, as well as his name continues to be linked with the Reds managerial role. We'll have a little word from Andy Robertson on the game tomorrow and, of course, his contract situation. We'll talk about some transfer gossip as well. But most importantly, we'll try to help each other through this sticky situation. I guess I got to start off by saying happy St. Patrick's Day, or Paddy's Day as we call it over here, to each and every one of you. Appreciated all the kind messages and stuff that you guys have sent over the last 24 hours to us Irish folk. So yeah, hope you're all well. Lots to get through tonight. The chances of comebacks in the Champions League for English clubs, well, they were sent packing early doors pretty much. Manchester City conceded an early penalty and a red card against Real Madrid, although it was 1-1 at half-time in that one. Paris Saint-Germain screamed into an early 2-0 lead against Chelsea, meaning it's 7-2 on aggregate, so not really much chance of a comeback at Stamford Bridge. So it's looking like Liverpool, if they do progress against Galatasaray, will be taking on Paris Saint-Germain, a familiar foe. Yeah, don't know what to really feel about that one. Right, what have we got here? So, yes, Richard Burt of The Telegraph, or James Burt, excuse me, of The Telegraph, my apologies. Richard Burton was in my head there, I don't know why. But James Burt of The Telegraph has said that Richard Hughes is on a 3-strong shortlist to become Al Hilal's new sporting director. So far, there's been no contact with Liverpool and no discussion over the 46-year-old's future or indication that he might be interested in leaving. Now, I did try to find out as much information on that situation as I could, but nobody really has anything concrete outside of the post from that gentleman from Saudi Arabia yesterday. Nobody's really able to give me clarity on that situation around Richard Hughes, so I'm still none the wiser as to what is really happening there. But, of course, we'll discuss that tonight as well. Right, we do have a poll in the chat, and we're asking, pick your preferred option for the Liverpool head coach. Xabi Alonso, Arne Slot, Sebastian Hoeness or Julian Nagelsmann. They're probably the contenders for the job at this point. Now, so a lot of people are going to be wondering where Sebastian Hoeness' name has come from all of a sudden and what does that mean. Tonight I'll try and help you understand the situation as best as I can. So I guess we should probably start off with a little bit from our friends at Anfield Index who had this exclusive about Sebastian Hoeness. Their information is that Liverpool's Michael Edwards has met with Sebastian Hoeness representatives on a couple of occasions, or at least on one occasion, to talk about the possibility of succeeding Arne Slot at Liverpool. Now, of course, Liverpool will cast the net wide if they're looking to go and remove Arne Slot. They have to do their due diligence on a few different coaches, and Sebastian Hoeness is a name that isn't a surprise to me that it's come up into the mix, but like I've said, I wouldn't take it as an indication yet, one way or the other, of a definite direction of travel for the managerial situation, other than it does show that they're preparing perhaps for life without Arne Slot. So we'll talk about a little bit more of that tonight. Eddie Gibbs from Anfield Index wrote a good piece on Sebastian Hoeness, and I'm going to give you a bit of an insight from Eddie as to what you could expect football-wise from Mr. Hoeness if indeed he was looked at. Right. So, Rolfie, how are you? My colleagues went to Anfield this Wednesday. She said the environment was very toxic and angry throughout the game, not just booing at the end, as per the media. So, Rolfie, you know my take on how our club is covered, mate, and you know my take on how they try to deny what is actually happening. That's kind of been what I've heard, mate, for a long time. Loads of match-going fans just really disgruntled, really unhappy, not just with Arna, but the style of football. That I think is the big. The results are fairly self-explanatory, but it's the style of football that has a lot of people frustrated. So, yeah, I'm not surprised to hear that at all. I'm only saddened that somebody had to go and enjoy, well, try to enjoy themselves with that kind of sentiment or feeling inside the ground. But it's understandable. It really is. Right, let's keep going. So do you think this means Slot's going? Well, I did say to you guys, I don't know, must be 2-3 weeks ago now, that our information was that Arne Slot was going at the end of the season. That was the information that we'd always been saying to you. We still think the most likely direction of travel is Xabi Alonso, but of course the club do have to look at all options available, and it would be silly of them not to look at all options available. Tonight we're going to try and figure out a little bit more about the situation, but all of these reports, to me, do show a real desire from the club to remove Arne Slot. I know that they will continue to say otherwise in the media, and they have to do that. But ultimately, behind the scenes, it looks as if they are starting to make some moves, or at least sound a few people out. And as I said, our friends at Anfield Index today had that exclusive with the conversations that they believe have taken place between Sebastian Hoeness and Michael Edwards. But again, I want to underline that means that they're just talking. That means that they're looking at their options. It doesn't mean that it's a definite move towards Sebastian Hoeness. I still think Xabi Alonso is the most likely candidate to come in there as the next Liverpool head coach. Craig, have you seen the new USA World Cup kits? Can't decide which to buy, the stars or the stripes. Do you know what? I haven't seen them, mate. It's been a pretty busy day today, in all honesty. I've been spent most of the day glued to my phone in WhatsApp conversations with journalists and other content creators, and just trying to figure out, what I would say is, and very kindly, we are starting to share information behind the scenes and garner a little bit more. So there is. It never surprises me when we all can pull in the one direction. When we all are on board with the idea of Arna going, that these bits of information starting to be shared around a little bit more stuff starting to come to light as well about how snidey the club is with regards to the media side of it. I mean, I'm sure you've seen a lot of stuff on social media about that as well. Mike, how are you, dude? You'll never walk alone. Appreciate you, my man. 26 months with us as a member. Appreciate every single one of them, sir. CPG KTU. What do you think of the report saying that Slot has already been in talks with other teams? I've heard Ajax is one. So, much as we talk about Liverpool being in talks with the likes of Sebastian Hoeness, maybe Xabi Alonso soon, it would probably be sensible of Arne Slot's representatives to look at his own situation. People aren't foolish. People know the direction of travel here and what the most likely outcome is. So, yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all. I don't personally have any information to confirm that Arne Slot has been speaking with anybody else. I really don't know that. But if I was in his position, I'd certainly be having my agent to start looking around and having those conversations. Ajax will be a strange one for him, though. If I was him, I wouldn't be looking to go back to the Eredivisie. I'd be looking to maybe move on somewhere else. With a higher caliber league, but I don't know, to be honest. I don't know what the situation is there with his future outside of the Liverpool job. What has Hoeness won, Craig? Hope you're good. Well, look, let me give you a bit of a background, Crimbo, on Sebastian Hoeness. Eddie Gibbs of Anfield Index wrote a good piece on this, which I'd certainly say is worth a read of your time. It says, unlike most... Actually, let me just move this across so I can read it clearer. Unlike most managers, the most interesting aspect of Hoeness is that he doesn't seem married to a formation. He tends to use a 4-2-3-1, but he has also regularly played with a 3-4-2-1 and a 3-4-3 formation at Stuttgart, adjusting to who he has available and who he's coming up against. Obviously, the team's relative shape out of possession and in possession still remains somewhat similar, Eddie writes. Out of possession, Stuttgart are narrow and want to limit space for the opposition. In possession, they're a fluid team in build-up play with wide players who like to stretch the flanks. Typically, he likes to have one fullback that inverts and the other staying wide. He also goes further by playing an inside forward on the same side as the inverted fullback and a wing back and a winger bombing forward. It sounds fragmented, but it actually creates the perfect balance. What's fundamentally important about Sebastian Hoeness in terms of the attacking profiles Liverpool have is they would all be very suited to the fluid movement and build-up that Hoeness employs. Now, I won't sit here to say I'm a student of Sebastian Hoeness, but I have been told about this man for the last 18 months as being a real talent coming through. He took over Stuttgart where they were either in the relegation zone or very close to the relegation zone. Saved them that season. I think got them to a German Cup final, if I'm not mistaken as well. And has gotten them into the Champions League, and they currently sit fourth in the Bundesliga table. He is very similar in mould to the style of football that Jurgen Klopp played. And he was under, I guess, light consideration previously, but now with that time at Stuttgart and what he's done there, he really has impressed. So, yeah, he's definitely a name that's probably new to a lot of people, but is a coach that has been well regarded, and certainly well regarded by the likes of Jurgen. Don't know, again, how strong Liverpool will push here for Sebastian Hoeness, but it's just another option for us to consider when looking at for another head coach. Right, Stevie boy. Why would Slot play Gomez for 95 minutes on the weekend and now he suffered an injury? Make it make sense. It's just another one of these really questionable decisions. But we don't know if he is injured or not. What we know is he didn't train today and he's touch and go for the game tomorrow. But yeah, I get your frustration. You know, it is, again, limiting our options for this game against Galatasaray tomorrow. Or at least maybe limiting the options from the bench. John Irving, and thank you, Stevie boy, as always, mate. Appreciate you. After the debacle of Spurs and joining in with the boos, I'm starting to regret my lifetime season ticket. So, look, I understand it, but what I would say to you, John, is things will get better. They will. It's a difficult time right now, man. It just is. It's tough for everybody. I'm sure it's no walk in the park for those at the club either. But tomorrow, I still feel quite confident we're going to get the job done. And I do think good days are going to come back to Anfield, you know, soon enough. Maybe not this season, maybe not as much as we'd like, but when we have a new coach in next season, if indeed that does happen, I've always said, John, I think we've got a great group of players here. And if we can add a couple more into that, secure Champions League football, I really do think that we will be better next season. And it can't get much worse. At least that's what I keep telling myself anyway, mate. Right. Let's talk about a few other things. Let's keep on the Sebastian Hoeness for a second, because Team Talk have said Stuttgart Sebastian Hoeness has been mentioned as a potential option should Liverpool sack Arne Slot. We'll give you some quotes from Arne Slot now on the pre-Galatasaray press conference. He's been talking about what he's doing wrong or what he's done wrong. He said, I did something wrong with the team when we won the league and some things which I did wrong. In hindsight, all the decisions I've made are to help the team win. I'll let you have your own take on that one. On the Liverpool fans being restless, this is what Arne had to say in his presser. It's never nice that they're frustrated as fans, aren't frustrated after you win. You're frustrated and disappointed when you don't win. When I came here, I was told this club was different and the fans supported manager for a long time. If it's true, fans are restless, I don't feel it at all. I must have done a lot of things wrong then. It's never a nice feeling to have. So Arne's trying to say, with a straight face, that he doesn't feel the restlessness of fans. And again, that's a veiled little dig. I was told when I came here that fans were supportive of the manager for a long time. Again, it's not blind support though, Arne. And this is what I keep saying to people. People come in, or people take for granted that Liverpool fans just stick with managers. Liverpool fans aren't idiots. Liverpool fans expected to be treated with a certain level of decency and a certain level of accountability. And the denials from Arne have led to this restlessness, because he clearly feels like he's not really doing much wrong. And that's what comes across in all of these press conferences, is these thinly veiled little digs at Jurgen, about the club before he came in, about him being a league-winning manager. He thinks he has carte blanche to just get away scot-free. This season has been one that no other football club on the planet would have kept him in this long. The fact that hasn't dawned on him really baffles me. He has been given so much leeway this year because he won the league last year. But now it's looking like he's been found out. That maybe he came in under the radar and won the league. But when teams adjusted, he has no answer. On Isak and Joe Gomez, this is what he had to say. Alex is not available and Joe we will decide tomorrow. He wasn't ready to train today. He had too many issues after the last game, although he had the issues after Galatasaray. Wasn't the plan to play against Tottenham, but Ibu felt his hamstring and we didn't want to risk him. He's going to try tomorrow, Joe. The fact you see Alex on the pitch shows he's getting closer. He won't be available Saturday either, no timescale. If you've done months on individual sessions, it's quite a step up to train with the team, and it's a step up to play in the Premier League and in the Champions League. On You'll Never Walk Alone, the song, Arna had this to say. It's a beautiful song, and that immediately gives us the right vibe. My complete focus is on preparing the players as best as I can, making sure we give ourselves a big chance of winning the game, working incredibly hard to get the result we need. If you want to look at it, we always feel we have the support of the fans. We never feel we walk alone, and we won't feel that tomorrow. Sometimes you feel a little bit alone as a manager when you walk in and you've lost, but players and staff members and supporters and family members are always there to support you in the first minutes after the game. I've never felt alone here, not 1 minute. He also said, when I came here, I was told this club was different and the fans will support the manager for a long time. I can say that 80 or 90% of games I've managed, my team has outworked the other team and my teams have created more chances than the other team. The outcome does not always do justice to that. That's the beauty of football and being in a low-scoring sport. More delusion from him. Again, Simon Brundish pointed out we were outran by 15% by Spurs, by 9 kilometres or 8 kilometres. And he still thinks that we're the fittest team and we outrun and outwork everybody. It's just, here's the facts, and then here's Arna coming up with his version of where we're at. It's getting harder and harder to stomach these press conferences. Right, where are we at? I just want to make sure I haven't missed any before I get down to Eddie's. John, I've done John's. Right, let's keep going. Eddie said, I'm counting down the days and hours until he's gone. I'm not going to lie, Eddie, so am I. Fuck it, mate. I'm going to be honest, so am I. Every press conference, every time I look at him, I just feel an actually physical, visceral reaction to looking at him. He just winds me up. It feels like when they did the research on the manager, to me, that maybe they believed in the footballing side of it. But I do think truly that they underestimated what Liverpool manager needs to do, needs to be statesmanlike. And I think that's the side of Arna that has unfortunately shown him up to be not the right fit. You know, the results on the pitch, of course, they speak for themselves as well. But that's the side when I speak to Liverpool fans that seems to keep coming across. The brand of football on the pitch isn't what we want. And on top of that, his persona and the way he speaks just seems to rub a lot of people up the wrong way. Like I said, when you're winning, it's easy to get praise, but when you're losing, your back's against the wall, you start to see the crack show a little bit more. And again, some of his comments this year have left a sour taste. I can't believe he said that. Delusional, said Andy, LFC Cali. You're right, but nothing new. Nothing new with the delusional stuff, unfortunately, mate. I just hope, look, it's a weird one because honestly, tomorrow, I want to win. I want Liverpool to go through. But for the first time that I can really ever remember as a Liverpool fan in the modern era, I feel nervous about that quarter-final if we got there. Like, Paris Saint-Germain have wiped the floor with Chelsea. We've played them last year and they beat us on penalties. And we were in probably better form at that point than we are now. I'm genuinely concerned by that potential quarter-final. Yeah, truly. It feels like that could get nasty if we don't pull our finger out and start to show something. Now, look, I am looking past Galatasaray tomorrow in that sentence, and I shouldn't be because still work to do there, of course. Galatasaray have a 1-0 lead coming into the second leg, and, you know, I do think Anfield will help the lads get over the line and get the job done, but the players are going to have to respond to that as well. You know, they're going to have to come out and set the tone. I don't remember Klopp making excuses like Slot. Look, every manager has excuses, to be fair. You know, they all come out with it. But sometimes in these situations, and again, managers are all different. I like to see the manager take the brunt of it and, you know, deflect away from his players. That's one thing that I just haven't seen enough of with Arna, unfortunately, is that, you know, admittance of failure. It's always just that we've been unlucky, or somebody else changed, and, you know, that's unfair. So this in from Lewis Bowyer. Josh Abe has undergone successful surgery on the lower leg injury that will keep him out for the remainder of this season. Lewis Bowyer, very, very good with regards to his coverage of the Reds underage teams and players. Arsenal now 2-0 up in that one. So Arsenal looking like they're booking their place against Sporting Lisbon. Yeah, they turned around that 3-goal deficit against Bodo Glimt. It was 3-3 on aggregate after 180 minutes, and then they went to extra time, and of course, 3-3 on aggregate after the two legs, and then they went to extra time, and it was 5-3 overall. So it will be Arsenal taking on Sporting Lisbon in the quarter-final for them. Shano, how are we, bro? Happy St. Patrick's Day to you as well, my man. Hope you're well, Shane. Sending you love as always, sir. Right, Craig, who gets promoted from the Championship up the Borough? I don't know. I haven't really been keeping... I see Ipswich are pushing back up the league table. Ipswich, Coventry, Middlesbrough. It's the playoffs that are interesting to me. I mean, we all, you know, have that little Wrexham dream. Will they be able to come up? But I don't know. Yeah, I don't pay enough attention to the Championship. I just kind of check in on the results now and again and, you know, look at the league table. But it's interesting. I won't lie. I wouldn't mind seeing Ipswich come back up. Middlesbrough always were a big team or a Premier League side when I was growing up, and be nice seeing them back in as well. But look, whoever gets up deserves it, and fair play to them. David Jones, how are you, sir? Said, evening, Craig. How's the office coming along? Hope you and the family are well. Yeah, it's good. There's only a couple of little things holding me up, and a lot of it's to do with decorating and hanging up all the jerseys and stuff. And unfortunately, the builder that does it all for me has dislocated his shoulder for a third time, bless him. So yeah, it's just a few things like that are delaying it. But look, we've always said we're in no rush. You know, if it's this month, next month, if it's the summer, I'm fine. I just want it to be right before we jump in. Right. So, on our poll, we're heading towards 2,000 votes on this one, but we want to know your choice for your preferred option as head coach. Now, I'm going to take it for granted that anybody who's saying Arne Slot is an opposition fan coming in for a bit of banter, because, you know, I don't know many Liverpool fans that would be choosing that option right now. One interesting thing Anfield Edition posted earlier on, crediting Alex Crook, was Aston Villa will face a fight to keep hold of Morgan Rogers should they miss out on Champions League football. Liverpool sporting director Richard Hughes knows the 23-year-old well, having signed him on loan when he was in charge at Bournemouth. So, yeah, let's wait and see. But again, I don't know. Do we have a need to bring in a Morgan Rogers? You know, I think of him more as a 10 than a real, you know, out-and-out wide player. So, you know, do we have a need for him? I would say probably not. I want real outstanding pace brought in, and I think Diamande is very, very likely. And we're in a battle with a few other clubs from him, but he's certainly somebody Liverpool are looking at. But again, some of our signings may come down to whether we can get that Champions League money or not. I love the channel. Thank you, 123 Jan. What time are you on tomorrow? 6:45 for the live stream, mate, for the watch along. We'll have a news video earlier on in the day, but we'll be 6:45 p.m. tomorrow. Start our coverage of the game. I'm getting a bit more nervous the closer the game gets. I'm still confident, but you know, I was also confident that we were going to wipe the floor with Spurs, and that didn't quite go to plan. What really shocked me about that game against Spurs was just how poor we were with decision making. It's been something actually you could probably extend throughout the season this year. That final third decision making, it just hasn't been where you'd want it to be this season for the Reds. We need to score early. Certainly wouldn't do any harm. Now look, the omens are decent for us. Galatasaray don't travel well. Galatasaray will have no fans there as well. Of course, no travelling allocation, so it'll be full of Liverpool fans inside the stadium. And unlike the other day, by the way, I can now confirm what you guys suggested to me yesterday. There are people who've been telling me, yes, there were tickets available for that Spurs game at the weekend, which is a shock, truly a shock that there were tickets still available. That meme guy said, in the final third for Liverpool, we're absolutely shocking and look clueless what to do. There was one, I think it was Ekatike, was on a breakaway against Spurs. And he had two players to his right, one player to his left. He himself was slightly left of centre. And the margin of error and the options were the right-hand side. But he ended up taking too long and going out to the left and it broke down. Things like that are just, they need to be worked on. We need to have a bit more composure and a bit more guile in that final third. It's been our season, we've been wasteful in so many occasions, and Arna will say that's unlucky. I would say it's not. It's a symptom of a lack of confidence in the players. I'm confident we'll go through tomorrow, but playing PSG is scary. Yes, it is going to be scary. It's going to be a tough couple of games. They're showing again tonight that, they know when to peak in the Champions League. What score is that one now? Is it 2-3-0? I think I seen somebody in the chat say it was 3-0 to PSG in that one. It's now 3-0 to Arsenal, so they're safely through. 4-1 on aggregate now for them, with 20-25 minutes or so left in that one. So yeah, Arsenal's going to sail through, but that's no real surprise. We thought that they'd get the job done. So, Sean, if Arna was gone, I'm sure we'd know by now. I'm sure it would be everywhere, all over the place. I'm sure my phone would be absolutely blown up, and it isn't. So, yeah, I mean, Sean, I hate to boot you out, mate, but you know, we don't need false information. We don't need lies. Yeah. So, Motorhome said if we do go through, it'll be 3 or 4 days after the City one. Yes, and I don't hold much hope for that Manchester City FA Cup game either, because they're out of the Champions League tonight. They're probably out of the Premier League title race. They're certainly falling away there. So all they have left now is the League Cup, the FA Cup. So I think they're going to take those extremely seriously. Oh, Arsenal goal was disallowed, people are saying. So, yeah, that one disallowed. So it's still 2-0. Craig, would you take Michael Owen to replace Slot at the end of the season? So from one Clint to another? No, pass, thank you. Right, 1,900 votes up, 100 to go, and then we'll knock the managerial one on the head. Right, let me tell you a bit about what Andy Robertson has had to say in the presser today. I thought Andy Robertson spoke very well, actually. He said, I don't think we're concerned about the fans getting restless. The most disappointing thing is the fans went home unhappy. That gives you the biggest satisfaction that people are heading back to the pubs and their families and they're happy. But that concerns us that we haven't. Under the lights with those fans and that stadium, they always produce special nights. I've been so lucky to have so many in my time here, and I don't think tomorrow night will be any different, but we have to give the fans something to cheer. On his contract, Robbo said this, I don't think this is the day to discuss that. 24 hours before a massive Champions League game, I don't think anybody should be talking about their future. We've such a massive game ahead of us that full focus of the team is trying to get through tomorrow. We've given ourselves an uphill battle, but the focus has to be on that. And he said this club has to be in the Champions League year in, year out, which of course it does, specifically with the wages and stuff now that we have. Yes, it really does. Now, there's a couple of things on centre-backs that I want to move on to in a little while, but before I do, let me just drop into the chat again. What's this with Hoeness? Said Footy Banter. So our friends at Anfield Index had an exclusive earlier on where they said that with their information, Sebastian Hoeness has spoken with Michael Edwards about the situation at Liverpool. Now, of course, that doesn't mean he's the guy. Liverpool could be speaking with 2, 3, 4, 5 different coaches. They'll certainly cast a net far and wide in their search. They may well end up coming back to Xabi Alonso, but you know, that report came out earlier on, and I messaged one of the owners of Anfield Index just to double check with them, and yeah, that is certainly their information. So let's wait and see what happens. Sebastian Hoeness is a very interesting coach. It would be a big step up for him. And again, you'd ask, does he have that ability to make that step up? To me, it feels a bit too much. So Alonso was a bit more about him, a bit more stature, and certainly would walk into the dressing room immediately and garner that respect. But style of football wise, Sebastian Hoeness would be a very good fit. Craig O'Clock Dan, how are you, sir? Said, hey Craig, yesterday was my 55th birthday. Can you tell the lads that a win tomorrow would be a great present? Love everything you do. Well, happy birthday, my friend. 55. You're 11 years ahead of me, but happy birthday to you. And yeah, I think we could all have our fingers crossed for that win tomorrow, my man. But also, thank you so much for being with us as a member for 8 months. That means a lot. Chris Shaw said, the tone in Robbo's voice and the choice of words led me to believe that he's off at the end of the season. I don't know what happens with Robbo. You know, we've seen some articles yesterday saying that the club are going to table an offer to him, but I'm always a little bit wary of those, because is that we're going to table an offer to him so it doesn't look bad publicly? Like, is it a realistic offer? Are they going to come in and lowball him a portion of his wages that he's currently on? Or are they going to make him a serious offer that because they genuinely want him to stay? I want him to stay, but I do understand it is a big wage and we have to be mindful of that as well. You know, it is, 160, 180 grand a week, something like that. And if that's going to be your cover or your backup left back, that's a lot of money. But again, there was something that I wanted to talk to you guys about actually, and it was around Michael Edwards. So we were trying to do a bit of research to figure out how much money these guys are getting paid. And whilst we can't find a definitive answer to the Michael Edwards question, there was a few pieces that suggested that somewhere between 10 and 12 million was what he values himself at in the role he's in, and what he was potentially talking about figures-wise with others who came knocking on his door. And it just kind of got me thinking, like, and again, we don't know the definite number, but if he's on anything like that, even 7, 8, 9 million, and then you have Hughes' wages on top of that, like, that's more money than Slot is on. That's more money than the head coach is on. And I think we're starting to see then maybe a little glimpse of how our wage bill could be maybe a little bit higher than we initially thought, you know, and that's before we look into some of those other wages as well. But that's crazy. It's crazy, like, because we still don't know what he actually does day to day. I want to say something else as well. A lot of people have messaged us behind the scenes over the last couple of days to talk about their own treatment of the club from a media perspective, and things that they've tried to do with the club moving forward and always been blanked on or denied on. It seems like, and again, the people that have reached out to me would be people who wouldn't be shy about expressing their opinions and wouldn't bite their tongue. So it's been refreshing to see that others have suffered the same fate as we have and feel the same levels of frustration that we have. I feel like Jerome, how are you, dude? Said, Slot's excuses of luck is such BS. The Premier League always proves that those with the best overall quality usually win the most duels, headers and matches. It's... Do you know, it probably took me a bit longer, Jerome, than I would have liked it to really start to understand that we're just not as fit as we should be. And I'm trying to look into it because it isn't my bag, you know, I'm not a sports scientist or anything like that. So trying to understand the methodology behind the training methods that we have at the club. Those who are certainly far better qualified than me to look at it think it's concerning. Quite a few people think it's concerning that they don't do as much as you would expect. and certainly not enough physical exertion. And you can see that then in some of our performances. You know, under Jurgen, we weren't going to be outrun. We weren't going to be outfought. We weren't going to be outworked, at least very, very rarely. Under Arne this year, I can't say the same. But again, I've also seen a lot of people finally come out and say, you know what? People who said this started at the end of last season were right. Because it did. And that's why I was concerned at the end of last year. Because it's very hard to flick a switch and turn it all back on again. And it feels like we did take our eye off the ball somewhat. We did let the standards that everybody talks so much about maybe drop off a little bit. And it has carried on to this season. We look so far removed from how we should. Right, let's check our poll. We've gone over the poll. So 78% of those who voted over does anybody else do that when they're speaking, if they're live or something? You start over-pronouncing words or enunciating them differently. Over 2,000 votes is what I was trying to say, and 78% of people went for Xabi Alonso, 10% Julian Nagelsmann, 8% Sebastian Hoeness, and 4% Arne Slot. I think I am on board with Alonso. I think Alonso makes sense. It feels like, I don't want to say a safe pair of hands, but it feels like a sensible decision. Because we do need somebody that can go into that dressing room and really get a hold of it. And really make a difference. And I think he can do that. I don't know enough about Sebastian Hoeness to know what type of character he is. I know that he plays a style of football we'd enjoy. And much like Hoeness, Alonso is flexible in the way he can set his teams up. He isn't just married to one system. Why are we delaying with Alonso? Again, I don't know what's actually happening fully behind the scenes. For all I know, and for all we know, there could have been more conversations than perhaps we think. It's a difficult balancing act, difficult tightrope to walk when you're trying to tell the world you're happy with one manager and then you're behind the scenes kind of, trying to sound out other people. Football is a small world and it's very difficult to keep all of these things quiet. So I think there has probably been a little bit more conversation with Alonso or a little bit more feeling out than maybe we're seeing. But again, we'll have to wait and see on it. My understanding is that is the direction of travel. Alonso is likely, but who knows? Who knows? What I would like to know, actually, and what I've been thinking a lot about over the last 24 hours, is how FSG feel about Hughes and Edwards. That's something that we don't know much about. We don't know how they're reacting to this. We don't know what Tom Werner felt after that game on Sunday against Spurs. I'm sure he wasn't happy, but we talk about accountability of the manager, and that is going to happen. But as Chris Williams said yesterday, those above him should probably fall on their sword as well, because it's been a collective failure at the club. Both in the style of football, the way the season's gone, and in the recruitment side of it. Winky Wonky Donkey, how are we, bro? Said Slot has less charisma than a ketchup sandwich. I've never had a ketchup sandwich. I've always tried to make sure there's at least a bit of meat on that sandwich if there's ketchup on it. What the fuck? So Rob Harris just said this. Breaking, Africa Cup of Nations final result overturned in major ruling. Senegal declared to have forfeited the match, with Morocco declared 3-0 winners. I mean, just when you think football hasn't got any more shocks in store for you, there's a wow. That's I'm sure this is going to be challenged again, and again we'll have more football drama around it. If Hughes values himself at 12 million, that's 32,000 a day. Yeah. Now again, we don't know that that's what he's getting paid. But, you know, from the groundwork and the searches we've done, that was some of the valuations that was doing the rounds. But again, we don't know. These are confidential things, so we don't know the actual numbers. But, you know, what we do know is he came back to football because he didn't want to be a sporting director. He wanted something above that. And he's director of footballing operations at Liverpool, or excuse me, at FSG. But Liverpool are the only football portfolio, or the only football club in their portfolio. So I don't know what the fuck he does. Because if he's still hanging around Liverpool, then you kind of ask, are we overkill with the amount of executives we have at the club? Feels that way to me, you know. I still can't figure out what he does for a living and how he justifies or earns the money he's getting. PSG are a bit off last season. Newcastle drew there, remember. They did, yeah. But they've put Chelsea to the sword over the course of those two legs. Can they overturn them titles we lost now to Manchidi? That's a big call by AFCON. It is, and it'll be interesting to see if Senegal challenge it, which I'm sure they will. I'm sure it'll be appealed. What a night for Brahim Diaz. Has he scored? I don't know the latest scores in those games, lads. I haven't got an open in front of me to keep me up to date with them. Right, anyway, I want to get into transfer talk, if I may, because there's quite a bit of that today that we haven't yet gone through. Let's start it and do it in chronological order. So let's start off with a conversation about Adam Wharton, because this post here said Liverpool have been warned that they will need to pay over £70 million if they want to sign Crystal Palace midfielder Adam Wharton this summer. The Eagles remain hopeful of keeping hold of the England international despite growing interest from the likes of Manchester City, Manchester United, Chelsea, Real Madrid and Liverpool. That story from Football Insider. But 70 million quid? What are we saying? Let me ask that in a poll question. So, what you pay So, would you pay 70 million for Wharton? Yes or no? I think it's a tough one because you have to take into account the homegrown aspect and the premium that comes with that. I probably feel it's a little bit high, if I'm being honest with you. I think somewhere from 50 to 60 probably sounds a bit more realistic. But again, I don't know what type of premium or what way maybe that deal could be set up. Is it 70 million quid? That's a flat fee, or are you talking about maybe 55 million with up to 15 million in add-ons? So, you know, that would, and of course the payment structure, how many years and stuff that's spread over would also be important. But it's not crazy money. Like, it's not 120 million Baleba kind of money that we'd seen Brighton maybe looking to get. Can we get that right? And I take him for 70 million today. It wouldn't be outlandish as a fee, but it is a little bit for me on the high side, just a little bit. But again, if he's the guy and he's the one the club wants, I'm sure I can learn to live with that. I've always said I felt like he was the most likely, but we have to get the deal done, and we might have to see what happens with regards to Champions League qualification. Spicy Teeny said, love this channel. Hi Smokey, Nessie, Frank, Haley and all. Well, appreciate that and great to have you in. Thank you. I'd rather Elliot Anderson. I feel he suits the team better. The problem there, Isaac, is, and I agree with you by the way, mate, for what it's worth, it looks like Manchester City are the most likely destination, at least for now, for Elliot Anderson, because there's a lot of chatter that Real Madrid are going to make a move for Rodri, that, you know, then Adam Wharton could go to Liverpool, and let's say Elliot Anderson ends up then at Manchester City, but United are also in the mix there as well. I don't disagree at all, by the way. I totally rate Elliot Anderson myself, but sometimes, you know, these things are out of any club's control, and maybe City have done the groundwork over a longer period of time, and or maybe we get surprised and maybe Liverpool do make a play for him. But I certainly don't disagree with you. I think he's a really good footballer, and I love the physical presence that Elliot Anderson brings as well. Tanya, how are we, my friend? 27 months with us. Wow. Thank you, Tanya. Hi all. Have I missed much? Only just on. Not really. We kind of spoke a little bit about Sebastian Hoeness, but I will recover all of it for you guys a little bit later on as well. I want to move on to another transfer story, and it's staying with Football Insider. They say that Liverpool are eyeing up a potential deal to sign Real Madrid and France midfielder Eduardo Camavinga. The Spanish club would reportedly be open to hearing offers for the 23-year-old who struggled for consistent minutes this season, starting just 13 of Madrid's 22 La Liga matches so far. Thoughts on him? You know, or would you actually just let me know with comments? Would you prefer Camavinga or Wharton? Let me know. Just put the word Camavinga or Wharton, because we have a different poll running, so we can't run that. But let me know what you think on this one. I'm a huge fan of Eduardo Camavinga as a footballer. I think he's incredible. But there's a lot to be said for Premier League proven. And that's what Adam Wharton is. He's not going to have as much of a settling in process as Eduardo Camavinga. So I would probably come down on the side of Adam Wharton. But if you asked me that a year ago, I definitely would have said Camavinga. So yeah, I think we need to put a premium on that experience for the Premier League. And while Eduardo Camavinga has plenty of experience in world football and playing at the highest level, not really Premier League experience. I will poll it a little bit later on. Remind me, I just have a poll running at the minute, so I wanted to leave that poll running, but I will come back to it and ask you guys what you think on that one. Seems to be a mix of both. A lot of answers of each in the chat there. Right, let's move on to Bastoni. This is very interesting if true, folks. Very interesting. Gazzetta Italia are saying that Alessandro Bastoni could well be on the move this summer. Barcelona and a lot of Premier League clubs showing interest. But the fee is what really surprised me. They say that Inter would consider offers in the region of 50 million euro plus bonuses. So that's about 44 million pound plus bonuses. That's a bargain for Alessandro Bastoni. Now, I still stand over what I say. He's better suited in the back three than I think he would be as a one of two in the Premier League. But wow, that at that price, I don't think they're going to be short of offers for him anyway. I get the feeling it'll be Barcelona want him, and I think it'll be between Bastoni and Van de Ven for the centre-back Barcelona move for. That's kind of my feeling on this one. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see where Bastoni goes or where he might want to go, but I definitely think it's worth keeping an eye on Barcelona for him and Van de Ven as well. But yeah, that's incredibly cheap. Like, if anybody was able to get him for even, let's say, with the bonuses, £50 million, incredible. Incredible value. Joshua, we covered the thing about the AFCON a moment ago, mate. We read out the Rob Harris post. He said, breaking, African Cup of Nations final result overturned in major ruling. Senegal declared to have forfeited the match, with Morocco declared 3-0 winners. Does Bastoni have pace, Craig? I wouldn't call him fast. I wouldn't put him up there with Van de Ven. So I would say no. I don't think Bastoni is lightning quick. Martin said, I actually don't think Bastoni would suit the Premier League. Maybe in a 3, but I take a lot of convincing that he'd work out well for us. Yeah, I could see him in a 3 as well, like I've said. I don't think, like, if he lined up alongside Virgil van Dijk, I just don't think he's aerially or physically strong enough to cope with the Premier League. In a 2, in a back 3, left side of a back 3, no problem. Absolutely no problem. But I've always had that concern. Because, look at the way Liverpool defend and look at how good we are aerially with our two centre-backs. They're always ranked really, really high. But talking about centre-backs, a post about Liverpool worrying behind the scenes caught my eye today. Anfield Edition, credit them on the post. They use Sports France, and they said that Liverpool were panicking behind the scenes after Jeremy Jacquet's injury. Now, that's not the interesting part. The interesting part comes in the next paragraph. It said they were already picturing a Jacquet-Van Dijk partnership to start next season, but the injury is likely to delay his integration, with the defender set to have a light pre-season and no match fitness. Now, the reason I say that's interesting is, does that mean that the club have given up on Canade? Because that's certainly what I took from that. Now, this is a report, so we have to say that. It isn't coming from the club. It isn't stated as fact. But if Liverpool were planning for a Van Dijk and Jeremy Jacquet partnership to start next season, then certainly doesn't feel like they're overly confident in being able to reach an agreement with Ibrahima Canade. Because if Canade stayed, surely he'd want to think he's going to be the guy, or he's going to be the partner to Virgil van Dijk. So, interesting one on that. Maybe you guys interpret that differently, but for me, that's certainly how I read that post when I looked at it. Or at least that's the first thing that popped into my mind when I looked at it. I mean, just even looking at it from the point of view of what will be the expectation for Jeremy Jacquet from the club next year, even that as a thought exercise is quite interesting. Because when we signed him, I didn't really know what to expect. Would he be coming straight in to play week in and week out? What the situation with Leone? How much are we going to see of him next year? So, yeah, interesting one on that. I don't know all that much about Jeremy Jacquet, to be quite honest with you. I don't watch a lot of French football, so that kind of... I never really paid much attention because Chelsea were the ones that were seemingly always interested in Jacquet, and, we kind of seemed to at least come in late and get it done. A. Michael said, never mind Bastoni. I don't think he'll be up to the pace of the Premier League, and it's much, much faster than Serie A. Go spend the money on Murillo. Thoughts? Yeah, I like Murillo. I do like Murillo. I paid a lot of attention to Murillo the other day when he was playing. When I was watching the Forest game, I was just following Murillo around when I could on the screen, and I like him. And I was surprised that he's as young as he is. I didn't think that he was only 23. I thought Murillo was about 26, 27. So if Forest go down, or maybe even if they don't, but certainly if they go down, I'd be very open to that. Don't know what type of fee though they'd be looking for. Paul Scholes blaming Wirtz for our slow play. I think Paul Scholes needs to just fuck off with his punditry because he's shy. He really is. As well as being a dull, boring fucker, he's just come out with some absolute whoppers. Honestly, you just stick to chewing on your daughter's toenails and shut the fuck up, because I don't like his takes on football at all. It feels like he just wants to come in to be sensationalist and say really bold statements to try and, I guess, get his name back into the mix a lot more in the conversations around football. But yeah, I don't like Paul Scholes. I think he's a fucking gobshite, to be honest with you. Very good footballer, but yeah, just seems like not my type of fella anyway. And I'll quite happily carry on with Florian Wirtz at Liverpool. Thanks very much. Keane said Murillo's not the best aerially. No, I'll give you that, Keane. I'll give you that. But remember, we were talking about other defenders before, like Mark A, who probably aren't the best aerially. So maybe, again, and I'm saying maybe you could look at it and think, okay, that is one attribute he doesn't have, because, he's not that naturally tall, but he's a very good physical defender, and he reminds me of Joel Matip at times when he goes on those little jaunts forward. Alan Sutton said Murillo is definitely the player that I would go for. It'll be an interesting one. Certainly, if I don't... Like, what do we think happens with the relegation battle? Who do we think goes down? I still think Spurs are going to struggle, but I don't know, West Ham or Forest, West Ham, Forest, Spurs, which one of them goes down? Connor coming in late here with the stories. I mean, we've already covered a Crosby. Come on now. We've already covered that Richard Hughes story from Jay Bird to the Telegraph. Keep up, Crosby. Come on now. Keane's way ahead of you. Forest. Wow. Because I would say West Ham are the worst team of the three, personally. But I do think they probably have a bit more star power with Jared Bowen to pull out moments, whereas Nottingham Forest can't seem to put the ball in the back of the net at the minute. Watching again their game the other day, and Owioni as well, so they just can't put the ball in the net. And I really feel like if we had beaten Spurs, I think that really would have just continued their free fall. But maybe now they have a bit of more belief because they came and got a point at Anfield. By the way, did you see Eze's goal for Arsenal tonight? Ooh, lads, what a strike! It's the power in that was incredible. You know, just to turn like he did, you know, hit it straight away. It was an incredible strike, that one. Really was. Leone will need monitoring, though I feel we have to go into next season with 4 quality centre-backs. Leone being 4th choice, technically due to his age and long-term injury being carefully watched, said Marcus. Yeah, Mark, I agree. I'm so excited by him though, mate. I know we've only seen, 85 odd minutes of him, but that was all I needed. I'm hooked. I'm fully on board the Giovanni Leone hype train. Yeah, I'm really excited for him to come back in, and it'll be interesting to see how much game time he maybe gets next year, even as the season goes on. But yeah, he just seems like a really clever piece of business by the club to bring in. Martin said, Craig, not trying to defend everything Slot has done, but do you think in some ways he was set up for failure? Diaz sold against his wishes, Mark Gay deal not done, no wide forward brought in. Look, there have been challenges, Martin, to Arna this year. Absolutely. To be able to galvanise the team and to try and get them back in the right headspace after the passing of Diogo was incredibly difficult for anybody. But that's what probably only underlines to me the need for, and look, that was an exceptional circumstance, no doubt about it, but the need for a real leader at the top. And I just don't see Slot as a leader. I see him more of a tactician, a coach, just not a leader. And that, again, is just part of the job for Liverpool's head coach. And I just don't feel he has that. But was he set up for failure? I guess only he probably knows the answer to that, because, again, we don't know, as fans, what he wanted, what he wasn't given. But we do know that he was given a lot of talent. And I dare say we went into this season with a better squad than last season. Might not have been as deep as we wanted, and that's fair enough. And there certainly are areas that they didn't strengthen and should have. But was he set up for failure? I'm going to say no, actually, because I don't think he made the full use of the squad that he did have. And I think he could have brought through a few more youngsters. He could have rotated a little bit more. Maybe not at centre-back, because we kind of had one hand tied behind our back there. But yeah, I do think he's not used Rio Engamoa enough. He's not really used Chiesa enough. And look, I'm absolutely open to thinking Chiesa's not good enough. But what I'm not open to is why he's still at the club after 2 years, if they've come to that conclusion. That I can't get my head around. Because it's clear. All last summer it was clear Arna didn't rate Chiesa and didn't want him in. But they didn't move him on. That baffles me. And look, the Diaz thing not to replace him, I don't know whether the club said to him, we're not replacing him because you're going to use Rio, or whether he said, I don't need to replace Diaz because we're going to bring Rio through. Maybe I don't know. Again, maybe this all comes out after he leaves. Maybe it doesn't, but When you don't get much as a fan from the club, sometimes you have to try and fill in the blanks, and we don't know exactly what goes on behind the scenes because Hughes and Edwards and others seem to think that they can just swan about, carry on with it, and Liverpool fans will just keep nodding and accepting it. But I'd like a bit more communication out from the club, definitely. I don't know what the Peter principle is, Aaron. You said Slot is walking proof of the Peter principle. I don't know what that is, mate. Sorry. Maybe showing myself up to be a bit dumb there, but I don't know what it is. 50 million when we wouldn't pay 20 million for Gay. Okay. I don't. So look, I'm not trying to defend the club here, but I don't know the correlation you're trying to make between those two, because if I was to look at it and try to justify, and again, I don't think I can, but if I'm to try to justify why the club didn't spend the money on Mark A, the only thing I can really think of, and even this answer isn't good enough, but the only thing I can think of is that maybe they were never 100% convinced. Maybe it was just opportunistic for them. And they thought, okay, he can do a job, but maybe he's not the dream. That's all I can think of, mate. Now, even if I'm right on that, it still doesn't excuse why they went in for him. If you're going in for lads you're not fully happy with, that's also a problem. So yeah, make it make sense, Malty, as you said, mate. I don't know how we got here. I just know it feels very weird. Even at the time in January, before Man City came in, the likes of James Pearce now, we were still talking about Liverpool maybe signing him or wanting him at least on a free at the end of the season. So it never made any sense to me, mate, why we didn't make that move for Mark A. Now, again, just like everything else this season, a lot of people tried to just say it was the 300 grand a week. And there was always just so many people willing to just accept any old shite that they get pushed down their throat and not question it. I don't for 1 second think it was to do with the 300 grand a week. I don't. Because if Liverpool wanted him, I think they would have gotten him for less than Manchester City. I always think Manchester City pay a premium because they have a cloud hanging over their head. And anybody going there knows that they could be part of something that falls apart at the seams, could damage their brand. So yeah, and look, we also have to remember, what do you think we were going to pay Mark A if he came in on a free? Genuinely. You're probably going to be paying him upwards of £250,000 a week anyway. So the idea of Liverpool maybe not paying 20 million and then not wanting to match those wages, I don't know, it just doesn't really make sense to me. All I can think of is that they had second thoughts. That's all I can really gather as a fan. Itachi, how are you, my friend? Said, evening all. Excited about the match tomorrow. Either way, it'll be interesting. It will. I just hope we don't see a repeat of what happened with the English teams tonight about conceding an early goal and, certainly not a red card like Manchester City did. That would be a catastrophe for us. But yeah, I feel confident we'll get the job done tomorrow. I do. But what it's going to be like, is it going to be comfortable? It should be. If we show up and play even to 60-70% of our ability, I think we should win that game comfortably. But us, even if we go 2-0 up on it, we'll still end up sweating somehow. There'll be moments in it, but let's wait and see what happens. I'm more worried about that quarter final. Like last year we played PSG, I was going into it confident. Maybe a little bit arrogantly overconfident, but I'm petrified of it this season. Because if we're not at it over there, particularly in the first leg, if we get through, that could be anything. I think we beat PSG and possibly Real Madrid or Bayern. No, I don't. Nope. I don't have much belief at the minute we get past the quarterfinal if we get through. I don't. And if we get past the quarterfinal, I have even less belief in the semi-final because we'd be away from home in the second leg. So yeah, I think I have to be honest. Most years watching Liverpool in the Champions League, I believe we can win it. Foolishly or not, I believe we can win it because on our night, on our day, we can rise up to anyone. But this season just feels like a lot of us just want it to be over, you know, because it's tough going this season. It's heavy going, and we just want to know what the future is. Right. So we're nearly at 1,500 votes for the Wharton post, and then I will be a man of my word. And if there are any other I was going to say realistic suggestions for the DM role, but I think Wharton, Camavinga, we'll just run a poll with those two and see what you guys think. We couldn't beat PSV, never mind PSG. I still can't believe that actually really happened. Like, of all the results this season, that is without a doubt the one that was the most unacceptable to me. Losing 4-1 at home to a team from the Eredivisie is just incomprehensible to me that happened. Joshua said, did you see what happened with the AFCON final? I did. Again, it's just not a good look for football that these things are being decided in courts or arbitrations. It'll be interesting to see if it ends a different way or not. So I've just been sent this about that AFCON regulation. Mark very kindly sent this on, and thank you, Mark and Keane. Said Article 84 of the CAF AFCON regulations. If a team contravenes Articles 82 and 83, withdraws, refuses to play, doesn't show up within 50 minutes of kickoff, or leaves early without referee's approval, they're eliminated from the tournament. The match is recorded as a 3-0 loss to the opponent, or the score at the interruption if better for them. Organising committee can add sanctions. So that's apparently the rule that triggered this overturning of the result. You've seen that they changed Morocco as the winner. I have, but do you know what I feel for there is the fans again. Right? The fans. Because they're never going to get that moment. They're never going to get that celebration again in their home country. So, you know, I hate when football results get sorted this way. That's why I've always said I don't want any of these Premier Leagues that Manchester City have won. I want a big asterisk there in the record books that said nobody won it that year because they were found to have broken the rules. If, of course, they're found guilty. I think we need to go for Wharton, especially for the homegrown rule. Yeah, we definitely do need to be paying some attention to the homegrown stuff. But also on top of that, he is Premier League tested, ready, proven, fit, whatever phrase you want to use. So yeah, I'm with you on that one. But let me run it as a poll. So 55% of you guys said yes, you would spend 70 million quid. Right, let's ask this one. Okay, so 1 second. I'm better add in another option, actually, just to be fair. Okay, so who do you want? Camavinga, Wharton. But I did put in an option for somebody else, just in case you don't really think about either of those. Paul said, Craig, do you think Chelsea got off lightly? I've had a little bit more time to digest this one, and I was watching back pages tonight and hearing what a couple of the journalists had to say about it as well. Do I think they got off lightly? Yes, I do. I do think the mitigation of them coming clean has to count for something. Yeah, I do. But ultimately, I think when you boil it all down to it, yes, they're new owners at the football club, but it's still the same football club. And they still won a lot of honours in that time. So, yes, I do think they got off lightly. But then again, if I'm being really honest with you, Paul, I think Chelsea have gotten off lightly for that whole Abramovich era. and everything that went on there, even the losses that they were incurring of about, I think it was about 700 grand a week, something like that, or it was 900 grand a week for 17 years. It was a high number anyway. And yeah, how many other clubs were denied a trophy, or a player like Eden Hazard, let's say, came in. Willian, we all wondered why Willian did that 180 when he was on his way to Spurs 1 minute and then he signed him for Chelsea. Look, I keep trying to say this to people. Football is a very, very, very greasy business. And it has a real problem with transparency. And I've been talking about this for years. I don't know why football is so afraid of transparency. And these murky little deals, much like the stories of Mancini potentially getting paid some of his money from Manchester City via a different route, none of it surprises me, because football has been this way increasingly for many a year now. Glenn Simpson, how are you, Glenn? Appreciate you coming in, my man. Hope you're well. Always love to see another tick, mate, beside somebody's name. Lets me know that you've done well with your old YouTube journey. So thank you for that one, Glenn. Appreciate you coming in and wishing you the best. Said if they were going to apply those rules in AFCON, they should have done it on the night. They didn't, so the result should stand. Certainly understand exactly where you're coming from, Glenn. It would have nipped that in the bud, like you've said, mate. It would have given Morocco a chance to celebrate properly. Yeah, I get it. If the rules are there and the articles are there, you would think that there would be a CAF delegation at the final, and it could have been sorted out on the night. I don't disagree with one word you've written there, my friend. Do we sign Alexander Isak? Man, I miss those days. Oh, I love them. I fucking love them. I love that poll every night. Do we sign Isak? Yes or no? Do we sign Isak? Yes or no? Craig, give up on it. It's not happening. Craig, it's happening. Craig, what do you think? I loved it. I loved every minute of that. It was brilliant. You reckon Slot stays if we get top 5? No, I don't. Look, I think sentiment has shifted, as Cara said. I think they've underplayed what the atmosphere inside the stadium has actually been like. I think people have been delusional in that regard. Carragher said that he felt that there was a shift inside the stadium after the Spurs game. Again, I think no, that shift happened previously. And I've been trying to read as much as I can on fan forums about people who go to the games or not. But it's very difficult to know, right? At least when I talk to the people in the Discord group or friends of mine that I know they are actually season ticket holders. So I take their views with 100% honesty. But when you're reading stuff online, he says, I'm a season ticket holder for 30 years. You don't know what you're dealing with. You don't know if that person's legit or not. So I always try to take them with a pinch of salt. But the sentiment that I'm always hearing is that he hasn't had the crowd with him for a while. And I know they point to instances like at the San Siro, they were singing Slot's name. But again, I think they read too much into that. He's won a league title. He'll always be on that banner. He'll always be... Sorry, why was somebody deleted Corbyn's message? Was that by accident? I can still bring it up on screen anyway. Yeah. I think he's gone. I really do. I think it's gone too far at this point, and I think even if we go into next season, he'll be gone by Christmas. And what's the point of that? That's just fucking up another year for us. My biggest gripe with all of this is the seeming insistence on being right from Hughes and Edwards, despite all the evidence to the contrary. And I just hope that their stubbornness is broken, because it's clear he's not the man for the job. Do you think the home grow rule is silly or good? No, I think it's a good rule. I think clubs, football associations should always be looking to prioritise the development of talent in their own country for their national teams. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I've no problem with the homegrown rule, mate. Mark said Slot needs to go now, not later on. Well, it'll be interesting to see if we lost tomorrow or if we didn't go through, what would happen. But I don't know. Like, do you guys think if we lost tomorrow night, he'd be sacked? Because I really don't know. I wouldn't know what to expect. Because I would have sacked him earlier on in the season and brought in an interim manager. And my belief only grew when Heidegger became available again after, Thomas Frank lost his job with Spurs. I thought, okay, well, there's another viable option to bring somebody in to take the reins for the last bit of the season. Then you can get Gerrard in. So yeah, somebody asked a question about TNT Sports actually, and Gerrard is working on a not a permanent contract. I think it's what's the phrase I'm looking for here? Sorry, can't think of the word I'm looking for. Yeah, sorry. He's working on no, not 0 hours. What am I looking for? No, not that either. Freelance deal. Yeah, that's the one. Thank you. Yeah, he's working on it. Seemingly working on a freelance deal. Thank you. Apologies on that one. My mind just went blank. But yeah, that's apparently the case. And thank you for bailing me out, folks. Appreciate you. Someone else. We're the Anderson crew, said Itachi. I'd love Anderson, but I just think he's going to go elsewhere, and I don't want to get emotionally invested in a player that I genuinely think will end up elsewhere. Right, let me read through some more of your comments. Tony said, should have been sacked after the 4-1 loss to PSV. Yeah, I agree, Tony. Like, that's embarrassing. Like, if Arne had a lost 4-1 to PSV when he was at Feyenoord, he'd have had questions to answer. But doing it as Liverpool manager at home in the Champions League it's more than embarrassing. And that came in the midst of 3 games in a row that we lost by 3 goals. That was it. I'm with you, mate. He should never have gotten past that era, that time. But again, they keep thinking they know best. Luke Edwards from the Telegraph, remember him? Unfortunately, I do, but God, how wrong was he the whole time? Do you know what got me about him, though, Itachi? It was the sheer fucking arrogance of the man. He really was just almost trying to bait Liverpool fans in. I know, senior sources have told me, this isn't happening. We'll revisit this at the end of the summer when I'm right. I just don't have time for it. And, yeah. Any banter that he got after that was well and truly earned. Blizzard, we all love what you're doing, Craig. Keep being you. So, yeah, I was actually talking a little bit today with Connor about my future, actually, and the direction of the channel. I just felt it was time we had a bit of an overview of what we're doing and what we're trying to go and what direction. So, yeah, I mean, I'm really proud to have you guys with me on the channel. Like I said, if I could, have one wish, I wish we could get the subscriber count moving faster again, because what's happened is that on YouTube, the notifications or your feed has gotten so good with predicting what videos you want to watch that a lot less people are actually hitting the subscribe button. So we look at the percentage of viewers that watch and how many are subscribers and how many aren't, and you'd be surprised it's nearly 50-50. And really, really, really want to make sure that we can push towards 500,000. So if I could ask everybody for one little favour, just do that for me. Double check to make sure that you are subscribed, because it really means a lot to us. We're the most watched Liverpool fan channel in the world. We want to be the most subscribed to as well. And we refuse to cheat as others have. And when I say others, I don't mean anybody in the Liverpool space with that. But yeah, we're not going to sit here and fake numbers. So yeah, if you could check on that one, that would really help. Eze's goal was creamier than my Guinness. Oh, it was the legend. How are you, dude? I was only thinking about you earlier on. It was incredible, mate. Absolutely incredible goal, and the sheer power of it as well. Yeah, that's one of those. He knew as soon as that left his foot, that was going top bins, and it was a great strike. Really was. John said apparently Gerrard's daughter's connections to the. I'll read it out because you've written it. It said apparently Gerrard's daughter's connections to the Kinahans put the club off going for him. Sponsorships get nervous. I haven't got a clue, John. I don't know anything about his daughter. I don't know anything about her relationships. I don't really follow players or former players' personal lives. I just kind of try to keep it with the football pitch, but I don't know, mate. Is the honest answer. I don't know anything about that subject. We do know the tax implications if he works before, I think it's sometime in April or something like that. He'd be liable for a lot of tax, but yeah, I don't know. I just the part of that I actually think about, John, is that mean we're heading towards getting rid of Arna one way or the other? That's kind of where my head's at with that one. Subscriber, member, friend. Love that, man. What a post. Love that, Atachi. Thank you, bro. Believe it or not, I'm subscribed. Love the channel. Said Corbin. Thank you, bro. Appreciate your support. Right, anyway, we've got more news to be going through. Sorry, I took a brief pause. Let me just get back into the news here for you. Right, so where we got down to Camavinga, hadn't we? And then we got down Bastoni and we done Jacquet. Right. So, called offside have said if Liverpool's domestic and European form collapses entirely, the board may decide to pull the trigger on sacking Arne Slot before the season ends. In such a situation, club legend Steven Gerrard has emerged as an emergency interim option before the club lines up a permanent successor. So, here's where I'm at with that. Why do we have to wait until all the things are fucked up? Like, they know he's not going to be here next season at this point. Let's be adult about it. We know, they know, the direction of travel is to remove him. So why do we have to wait for it to get to a situation where it's unfixable before they do what's right? I don't get the mindset there. If there's something still to play for this season, which there is, an FA Cup, Champions League, and to secure Champions League football, why stay with the man that's failing until he fails beyond fixing? I can't get my head around that. No part of me believes that him staying in would give a bigger impact than him being removed and somebody else coming in that could actually inspire the players. I just don't get it. Like, even a little, not new manager, but interim manager bounce, any type of fucking bounce would give us an improvement on what we're seeing. See, 1 point from 6 against relegation candidates in Spurs and Wolves. That's the reality of it for us. So why are they waiting until it gets beyond the point where it's able to be salvaged? That just winds me up. Stargirl said, hope you're well. Just come in. What's been going on in the world of Liverpool Football Club? So a lot of my day today, Stargirl, was spent in conversation with other Liverpool, no, not even Liverpool, other people who work in media that have shared their experiences with how poorly they've been treated or how much they've been blanked by Liverpool's media department. Even, I can't go into detail on it, but some of the things that I've heard today that people have asked the club about should have been pretty straightforward. And I'm actually quite surprised at the amount of people who've reached out since Chris Williams. Finally, someone broke ranks and said what I've been saying to you all for years, but when an actual journalist comes out and says it, it obviously has more impact because, he's been dealing with the club. So since that situation with Chris Williams, I've been inundated with people reaching out to me to talk about their own treatment or their own failures with the club. And again, like he said, They don't want anything negative being said. They don't want anything negative being written. And they lean on people. They do. They lean on people to, passively aggressive posts, just snidey bullshit, cowardly. I hate talking about this because I'm kind of on a hiding to nothing when I talk about it. There's no real upside to this conversation for me, but I think it's important that people know the truth. Someone said to me the other day, why do you say you'll never walk alone is a myth? And I said it is a myth with the way the club is being run now. It's an absolute fucking myth. It's not a myth amongst fans. It's not a myth amongst us as an ethos. But the way the club are run, particularly around the media side of it, it's pathetic. It's cowardly. They haven't got the stomach for a few dissenting voices, so they just blackball, blacklist, ignore, quell, crush. You all know it. Like I said before, do you know anybody else in the world who has a media pass to go to Liverpool games and doesn't write for an outlet or work for a television company? But there are people that do have those, and it's because of their relationships. That's it. It's fucking pathetic. And how insecure do you have to be to not accept genuine critiquing of performances or, people rightly unhappy with the manager? What type of a cowardly institution do you have to be? We wouldn't accept it from our politicians. You wouldn't accept it from your school boards. We wouldn't accept it in any walk of life. But in football, for some reason, we accept it. That these multi-billion-pound corporations are so fucking insecure that they try to force a narrative, that they try to quell genuine voices of dissent. It's truly pathetic. I can't believe, it's nuts. I don't get it. What is there to be hiding from? Because all that happens is you say something, you're labelled as negative and toxic. They tell, and look, I'm going to say other stuff as well here because it's fucking true. But, I've been told by people of others they've worked with and the club have said, why are you working with these people? Not us, but others. Because they write negatively about the club. It's so tin pot and embarrassing. And these people aren't answerable to anyone because they hide in the shadows and take multi-million-pound payments, and they run the club like, as Chris Williams said, not my words, like North Korea. This is why I keep saying to you guys, football clubs lie all the time. So when I come on and say, they said this, but they don't mean it, it happens. We all want to think, it's like, the last 2 years for me have been like being a child when you discover some of the things that you were lied to about as a kid. You discover them. Let's just say certain bunnies and a fat man with a beard. Those kind of things that as a child you think, oh my God, the world's so magical and all these things are... You'd actually be surprised with football how sometimes simple things are, and certainly how greasy it can get. J. Bob Sad said, Craig, this is a fact. I don't want to believe it, but in 21, 22, 23, we got knocked out by Madrid. In 24, 25, and 26, Man City got knocked out by Madrid. Do you see the pattern? Yeah. Avoid Madrid. Stargirl said, Craig, it's not right you have to deal with this. It puts you off supporting the club. It has really made me re-examine my relationship. Yes, it has. Because what's my great crime? And not just me. This isn't just about me. But I can only talk about what's my great crime? Being an outspoken Liverpool fan. I don't get personal. I don't talk about non-football things. I don't go onto social media and start harassing or trying to belittle people. I don't try to use my influence in a negative way if I have any. My big crime is that I dare speak what I think to be my truth, the truth, my views. And just because that doesn't align with what the club would like their fairy tale existence to be, I'm persona non grata. My 36 years supporting this football club, my love of this football club doesn't matter because I won't play the game. It's cowardly. And it definitely does make you feel unwanted. Yes, it does. But the only thing I keep saying to myself, Stargirl, is the people who are currently at the club won't be at the club forever. But you and I and everybody else, we're in this for life. So I might have to grit my teeth now and get through it. But these people won't be there forever. The club won't be this way forever. That's the only thing that gives me any type of peace. Because when you talk about it, people just think you're being jealous and bitter. And to some extent you are. But again, I keep saying, you're not asking for anything that others aren't given. Even when I've tried to work with certain people, they've looked down their noses at us. There is a real arrogance and a real sense of entitlement around the coverage of Liverpool Football Club. With Alonso in, a DM, centre-back and a wide player, what would be your expectation for next season as of now? It's a tough one to know, really, because you have to expect some level of settling in, some mistakes with a new coach coming in. So, with the players brought in, I'd certainly think a better push at the league. But I genuinely would be realistic in my expectations for the first year of any new coach, whether it's Alonso, Sebastian Hoeness, Julian Nagelsmann. You'd have your optimistic head on that you would think, well, maybe they can come in under the radar a little bit, and it takes a while for people to maybe figure out what way to play against Liverpool under the new regime. So, yeah, it's a tough one to figure out and to really give you an honest answer on. I think I'd probably have to have had a look at pre-season, see the way the lads are settling in, look at some of the training, and get a feel for if we're going in the right direction. But I always try to say this about Arne Slot as well. This season for me hasn't been just we've lost games of football and I want the manager out. It's been a lack of progression. It's been a lack of an identity, a lack of getting better. We aren't moving in the right direction. If I felt that we were looking at a team that were making mistakes because the manager was asking to do something new, I'd be far more forgiving of it. I really would, even if I didn't like the manager. But we're looking at the same shit all the time. The same patterns, the same slowness, the same lack of intensity. And that's why I firmly believe that the manager's the problem. Because I often get people coming in, Itachi, and saying, well, the players don't get a pass here. But as Connor said to me the other day, and he's right, yeah, if a few players were underperforming, maybe you look at individuals. But when you've got so many underperforming, you have to ask what the common denominator is. And it's the manager. It's his methods. And, I know that this team are better than we're seeing. I just know it. And I'm sure you guys feel the same. We aren't a bad team. We don't have shit players. We have a very good team. They're lacking in confidence. They seem to be lacking in drive at this point in time. And I don't know why. It can only be coming from the coaches. The legend said, AFCON is a disgrace. You see they gave it to Morocco. That I'm sure, look, I don't know the legal ins and outs of it, but I'd be surprised if that's not appealed at least. What happens, I don't know. But it always feels like it's a messy tournament, the AFCON, for one reason or another. Whether they're moving the dates, whether it's summer, winter, moving venues. Yeah, it just always feels like, of all the international tournaments, that one seems to have, a few headaches along the way. Oh God. I'm trying to pronounce my friend without Garatin Kajan. Apologies, that's my best attempt. Hey Craig, you've been a Liverpool fan longer than I have. Is this the worst season you've experienced as a fan, and what makes it worse than other subpar seasons? So really good question, and thank you for it. Is this the worst season I've had as a Liverpool fan? Yes. And why? I'm glad you asked the second part, because it is important that I give you context and it doesn't just sound like I'm being over the top. The reason, my mate, I think this has been the worst season that I can remember is under Roy Hodgson, I knew what we were. I knew what we had. I knew what our limitations were. And I expected it to be up and down. And I expected it to be like pulling teeth. We had owners who were found wanting. We didn't have the money to make the signings we wanted. We weren't in a position to attract the signings we wanted. And it was tough. So I knew we were going to be shit. But this season, like I said, we came into it on a level of expectation and enthusiasm and excitement that I can't remember. You know, we had a window that I've dreamt of for the last 10 years with players coming in for huge money. Everybody was in the same direction. We were all pulling together. And now we're here. A few months later, we're here. And it feels like it's been a nightmare that we can't wake up from. So I would say, yeah, it's been my worst season as a Liverpool fan for those reasons. I'm not saying we haven't had worse results or whatever, but, you know, look at what we spent. We won the fucking league, and now we've gotten to this point. It takes a lot to fuck up that much. Craig O'Clock Dan, how are you, my man? I love the tattoo, by the way, in the picture. Slot's biggest failures is he doesn't adapt. I know what he wants to do, but he doesn't fit us right now. So do what plays to our strengths for the available players. Yes. And also, it winds me up when he talks about the league changing and becoming more physical. Like, even when we played Paris Saint-Germain last year, he talked about their style. And when we play Man City, he talks about Pep Guardiola and their style. Why don't we just stick to our philosophies and principles, come what may, and enforce our will on others? I don't understand. Yes, he's too rigid, I get it. But anybody who truly believes in their philosophy, yes, you'll tweak it, but you won't change it. Barcelona are never going to become a team that goes long. They're always going to pass the ball through the channels, through the lines. They're always going to build up play. So that's why, again, I don't get it. If these are your ideals of football, why are you changing and bitching about the league becoming a bit more physical? You know, we should still be good enough to enforce our way on others and not worry about how they're going to set up and how they're going to play. Sign Key Schmidt. Did you not see his comment? Yeah, I don't have it to hand, but he basically said about the future, he wouldn't mind going to La Liga because he likes the sun and he doesn't like the cold weather. So, yeah. Hope this makes you laugh. With the league teams playing tactics from 15 years ago, it would be like a homecoming for an Alonso-Gerrard partnership. That is a dream for me, Stargirl. I would absolutely love that. Imagine Alonso, Gerrard, and maybe throw in hiding it again because, you know, he's very well thought of as a coach. But even those two, imagine looking at the dugout and seeing those two in conversation beside each other. That'll do. That'll do me the finest. Right, let's talk. Caught Offside said Xabi Alonso remains the undisputed favourite to take over at Liverpool if Arne Slot is dismissed. The Spaniard would be open to the move and would have the backing of the club's hierarchy. So what is he going to say when we have PSG in the next round, the Champions League? Can I have your autograph? That's probably one of the things I'd expect him to say, because I'm still embarrassed by his fawning over them last year. There's nothing wrong with saying your opponents play good football, but this man seems to go out of his way to fawn over PSG and Pep Guardiola at Manchester City with no awareness of him being Liverpool manager and the institution that he's currently at the head of. Don't get it. You know, especially when PSG and the other side are saying, yeah, we're going to come to Anfield and we're going to win. No fear. We're going to come do our thing. We're going to win. I want my manager talking like that. Because, again, it puts it into the mind of the players. Whatever happens, we'll find a way. We're going to get it done. James, how are you, sir? Said, my grandfather is 88 years old. He's been to games throughout his life and never misses a game on TV. I just heard he didn't watch the last 2 games. Well, firstly, say hello to your granddad for us. I'm sure he's got many a story about many a great night that he's witnessed over the years with the Reds. But unfortunately, that tale that you've told me about your grandfather isn't an isolated one, mate. I've heard that from a lot of Liverpool fans that, you know, they haven't watched the game, or they've gone out, they've kept track of it on their phone, or he's not on his own. I'm maybe a glutton for punishment. I'll always tune in to watch Liverpool, come what may. I just do. But yeah, it's a hard going. It really is hard going. And again, I hope those in positions of authority know this about the fans, because I don't know anybody that's still behind him. And if he won the league last year is still the best excuse for not sacking him, I'm sorry, that's not good enough. You know, we said it before. Ranieri got sacked by Leicester after a 5,000-1 title win. You know, why are we too big to admit that we have a mistake here and that he can't sort it out? We've given him long enough to sort it out. We're in March and we're still dropping stupid points to Wolves, Spurs. You know, again, 9 losses in 12 as Liverpool manager at one point this season. That is absolutely unacceptable. Apparently Slot has a meeting Friday, so let's hope. Yeah, I keep hoping every day, mate, that he's gone or that he steps away from the job. But I just can't take to him. In my head, it feels like he thinks he's doing us a favour being here as Liverpool manager. He just doesn't seem to have gotten the Liverpool fan base. He just doesn't seem to have understood it. I'd like to know what the instructions is when we're winning 1-0. It's a good point, Paul. I don't know, mate. I don't know. But you can feel it. You can sense it. You know, why not put your foot in the throat? Why not go for it? Yeah. What really has got me as well, Paul, is he seems to have gotten the starting tactics wrong a lot this season. Like, I think we kind of let him away with it last year somewhat because a lot of the time it was figured out in the second half. But it's really surprised me the amount of times his game plan has been so off, so wrong, so wide of the mark. And he's been outthought by Unai Emery at times, and I think Sunderland probably felt like they could have left Anfield with 3 points when they came and got that draw. And I certainly felt like they didn't play with any fear. And he has turned Anfield into a welcoming place rather than a fortress. So, yeah, I don't know. I just want it to be over. But I'm in this horrible position as a fan because you want the club to do well and the team to continue in these competitions. But does this sound familiar to you? You're almost worried for Liverpool to win because if Liverpool win tomorrow night, what's going to happen? The James Pearces of this world, the Ian Doyles of this world, the usual suspects are going to come out and write fluff pieces talking about how he steered the ship through a very difficult passage and how things are still to play for and how those with short memories and always just bollocks. So you're almost worried to win because then you're thinking, damn, this man could be in a bit longer. Or what if he stumbled through enough that they do give him the start of next season? Like, that's my biggest fear in all of this, is that somehow he spoofs his way into being the coach for the start of next season. He's fired in October, November, and then the process starts all over again, and it's another fucking season out the window. And I'm fed up of watching this football club over the years and feel like they're willing to write off half seasons and seasons. It's not good enough. This season could have been better if we just invested, if we had brought players in January. And again, ask yourself this, with no recruitments in January, with no to Johnny Hiding coming back in, what do you think the outcome is going to be? Because everything, despite all the bullshit, despite the Ornsteins of this world coming out and saying club sources told him blah, blah, blah. Yeah, Luke Edwards was told by senior Saudi sources that Isak could be going nowhere. How did that work out? So I believe Ornstein was told this. I'm not calling David Ornstein a liar, far from it. But it doesn't mean you have to believe it. It doesn't mean you can't question it. Because let's put your common sense hat on. You know, let's look at the picture here. Didn't back him in January. Didn't let him have Hiding it back. Why is that? And again, I keep coming to the same phrase. Stop treating football fans like we're idiots. We're not. You can't piss in my pocket and tell me it's raining. Like, I'm that bored with this football that I can't be bothered to celebrate when we score now. I mean, I don't know, Eddie. I don't know what to say to you, mate. I understand it. Yeah, I just don't feel surprised anymore when we concede late. Like 10 times. 10 times this season we've conceded a goal 90th minute or later. 10 times. 10 fucking times. Keane said the journos failed to use their own common sense in regards to the club. So I've told you this before. I've spoken to journalists off the record, and I would never throw them under the bus by saying their names, but they do question what they're being told. But ultimately, this lack of a healthy relationship that I keep coming on to, if you're reliant on access for existence, what are you going to do? You know, if you're, as a written journalist, or if you're reliant on being able to get access, are you brave enough to stand up and say, yeah, this is shit? You know, maybe if you're writing for a big institution, perhaps. But like I said, look around, all the people, all of them who have access to the club, and ask what the common denominator is. And I think you know the answer. It's that they don't rock the boat. The club didn't back Klopp at times, or have you forgotten that? I wouldn't take them not spending in January as they don't back him. No, I haven't forgotten that. And again, your tone could be a little bit better there, mate. I haven't forgotten it, but if you listened to what I said, I also said, along with not giving them Hiding it and a few other things, points to the direction that they're not believing in him, despite what they're saying publicly. So again, mate, if you want to try and have a debate about what I've said, no problem, but use the full quote of what I said to try and justify your reason for disagreeing with me. Because yes, of course they didn't back Klopp. But again, we want Mark Gay in August. We want Mark Gay next August. And he's available in January, and we don't make a move for him. Does that not seem strange to you? Because it really does to me. Mark Gay isn't Champions League quality. So lost today at City. He just made the wrong move. He made the wrong fucking move. He should have come to Liverpool. You know, I don't have any sympathy for anyone that signs for City. None. For anything that happens. Because I don't know, as an agent, a friend, a relative, how anybody with a clear conscience could advise anybody to sign for Manchester City right now. I don't get it. I don't understand it. How could you? At the very least, it's going to be sticky there. You don't know Guardiola's future. You don't know the outcome of these charges. And you're running the risk of your career being tainted by an association with someone that's been accused of cheating. It just feels so strange to me that anybody could suggest that move to their clients. CM Footballer 213, how are you, dude? Said, with a new manager and a few signings, would you feel optimistic for next season? Definitely. Even if Arne stayed next season, we'd be better. But not as good as we could be. So I think we'll see an improvement next season, come what may. Absolutely. You get players back from injury, of course. A few players in. Don't know what impact to expect from the World Cup with regards to fatigue and stuff like that. That's something we'll have to keep an eye on. But yeah, I expect us to be better next season, definitely. Whatever happens, we have a good squad. And, losing some players this year has been tough. But is anybody surprised that Isak's had an injury? He was always chasing fitness since the summer. And, unfortunately, that situation didn't go as planned. The club has done strange things in the past. This isn't new. Not bringing back a guy who who left wouldn't be a surprise either. Time will tell what the club thinks of Slot. Well, just to give you just a small bit of context on what you said there. You're right. Time will tell. I've no disagreement with that. But they did bring back Pep Linders for Jurgen after he left. So again, I'm not trying to say they're both absolutely comparable. I don't know the ins and outs of both of those situations, but Linders left, went to try and become a head coach, failed and came back in. So yeah, I don't know. But Arne wanted, again, if the manager is asking you for this coach and the manager thinks that this coach could make an impact and make the team better, it feels strange to hear the words no, especially if you're really believing in that coach. Because the reason for saying no feels like we don't want another payoff. But, maybe you could have gotten him in on a short-term deal. I don't know. I would have liked to have seen Johnny Heitinga come back, if I'm being honest. I do think it could have made an impact, but quite how much, I don't know. I'm actually scared of winning the Champions League in case Slot is still here next season. I get it. But I just don't think there's any chance in hell that we win the Champions League. I think our ceiling this season is quarter-final, possibly semi-final. But, let's not forget, we're 1-0 down in a two-legged tie tomorrow. So it's a huge, huge night tomorrow. And we know our opponents now. If we get through that, it's Paris Saint-Germain again. CM Footballer said, if we were to play PSG in the quarters, I would be quite excited as I feel we've nothing to lose and be huge underdogs. I'd love us to go in with that attitude and play with like we had nothing to lose. Because you're not gonna be able to half-arse it against them. They'll just pick you apart. You're gonna have to play. You're gonna have to commit. You're gonna have to really, really commit to that intensive, aggressive. Look at the team that's ripped them apart the most, which was probably Chelsea in the Club World Cup final. And how Chelsea went about it is they just absolutely swarmed Paris Saint-Germain. They didn't give them room to breathe. And it was really impressive to watch. And I wondered over the two legs, would we see Chelsea able to do that again? But they weren't. But yeah, that was a very good example of what to do right to put it up to PSG, but it takes incredible bravery to do it. And incredible levels of fitness as well. Right, where's our poll at? Right, so we asked, who do you want? Camavinga, Wharton or someone else? And 47% of you guys said Adam Wharton. Camavinga with 28%, and then somebody else with 25%. So we feeling confident tomorrow? What are we saying? Do we qualify tomorrow? Yes or no? Let me know in the comments. I think we do. I do. For a couple of reasons. One, Galatasaray don't travel well. Two, it's at Anfield under the lights, and I do think Anfield will be up for it. So I think we get through. My preview was that we win 2-1 and it goes to extra time, and then we see what happens. But I think we win on the night anyway. Jackson said no. Itachi said yes. Nope. Nervous said Motorhome Dreamer. Keane said you have to be willing to put it all on the line to beat PSG. You can't half-arse it. Yep, you do. You have to commit. You have to play brave football. Craig Adams said yes. Germany Goes Hollywood said yes. Nova Hype, yes. Darwizi said yes as well. I'm in the middle. I'm in two worlds about it, said Leona Farrell. Unfortunately, no, said Paddy Wacker. Yes, have to, said Stevie. Yeah, Connor's not overly optimistic for tomorrow. I think he's a bit worried about how this might go. I could be setting myself up for pain again, because I honestly thought we'd beat Spurs. And I thought we'd beat them comfortably. But that didn't exactly go to plan. Paul said if we score first, yes. Skater Hardy said no. Esther said no. Harry said no. Yes, we'll win, said Donna. Shubby, no. David Cornwell said extra time. Yeah, it's... even say... Look, I'm going to be honest with you. If it goes to extra time... Them taking us to extra time over two legs still feels like not good enough. You know, any other year, I would have fancied this Liverpool team to beat them something like 6-2 over two legs. So, even to the fact that we're having to debate this, because they did throw away a 3-goal lead against 10-man Juventus. Now, they won it in extra time, but they did capitulate and concede them 3 goals. So, they are shaky and they don't have any fans inside the stadium. Well, I'm sure that some of them might find a way to get in, but they've no allocation of fans inside the stadium, so it should be, you know, all us. I hope we don't do, like, I was wondering tonight if we'd see any of the English teams pull a miracle out in the Champions League, and I really hope what happened to City and Chelsea doesn't happen to us, that we concede an early goal, or we do something stupid and pick up an early red. Yeah, we can't do anything crazy in the opening 15-20 minutes tomorrow. We just can't. David Massett, how are you, bro? David reckons we're going to win 4-0. I love it. Hope we are here tomorrow night, David, talking about a 4-0, mate. That would put me... Yeah, that would send me to bed in good form. CM Footballer said, I just want us to have something to look forward to after the international break, which is the quarterfinals. Of course, I get it. You know, we've got that Manchester City game as well. First one back in the FA Cup after the international break. Oh, the officials for the Brighton game on Saturday were announced earlier on today, actually. The referee for the game is Darren England. His assistants are Scott Ledger and Akil Housen. Fourth official, Tim Robinson, and VARs, James Bell and Adrian Holmes. So they're going to be the officials for the game on Saturday, the 12:30 kickoff of the Amex. Malty said, too defensively fragile to win, unfortunately. Well, if Gomez hasn't trained and can't train, if Konate still feels his hamstring, yeah, it could be a makeshift centre-back pairing if that goes wrong. So let's wait and see what tomorrow brings. But look, I'm going to say goodnight to you all. Thank you again for coming in and joining me tonight and sharing your thoughts on the game and the situation at the club. Connor will be here in the morning with a video. I'll probably have an early afternoon news video out as well. And then we'll see you here at 6:45 tomorrow to start the coverage of the watch along. We'll have our match reaction, player ratings video, and everything else you would expect as well. Thank you to our sponsors, Surfshark, and for their incredible support. And don't forget as well, ladies and gents, we will be giving away that shirt at the end of March as well, that signed Kenny Dalglish shirt, with thanks to our friends at the Collector's Corner. Have a good one. Fingers crossed for tomorrow. We need something to cheer about.